According to an unreliable report, 8 out of 10 6-year-olds who expressed a preference said that they'd prefer to travel to school in a Volvo 4x4. Their parents obviously listened as fleets of these child chariots carry our precious cargoes to and from their studies every day. But apart from the Swedes' ability to wrap us up in cotton wool, is the 4x4 system just for gravel drives leading to the clubhouse? Or is it a possible FSUV, a Fieldsports utility vehicle? Well, we're putting this Volvo XC60 in the hands of motoring journalist and Fieldsports enthusiast Dom Holtam.
The XC60 is a stepping stone, if you like, between a normal family car and a hardcore off-roader. But it's also got a few tricks up its sleeve. It's full-time four-wheel drive. It's got hill descent control to help in tricky off-road terrain. It's got a 9-inch wading deck, so it's actually quite useful when you do decide to go off-road, but it's certainly not pitched as being an out-and-out off-road machine.
To see what the XC60 is made of, Dom's taking us off to the Ashdown Forest in East Sussex for two reasons. Firstly, to tell us about his work here, and secondly, to carry out our very own elk test. Dom is a volunteer with the Deer Warden scheme in the forest, which was first enclosed as a royal hunting park in the 13th century. It still has a healthy deer population, and as a result there are frequent deer-related road collisions, about 300 a year, and that's where people like Dom are called in.
The roads around here are some of the most dangerous in the country for deer collisions, and basically our job is to turn out and to try and minimise the suffering to the animals and to humanely dispatch them where that's relevant, and then to dispose of the carcass afterwards. And it's one of those schemes, I think, where stalkers feel they're giving a little bit back, and they're doing something to help out.
Back to the Volvo, and it's looking the part in the Scandinavian conditions. But considering Dom's work in Ashdown, how safe would a deer be if it ran out in front of us? With a nod to Sweden, we're going to carry out our own version of the elk test. This one isn't a high-speed lane change which hurt the A-class Merc, but a stopping distance test. But where do we find our crash test elk? Oh yes, of course. Dom hits the gas, and hopefully not our nervous-looking elk. He brakes, but oh dear. But this is not any fault of the XC60, it's physics.
What we've done there is showing what happens in wintry conditions when you have an emergency stop situation. The bottom line is you can't defy physics, even with four-wheel drive, even with ABS, even with all the traction control systems in the world. If there's not enough grip, you can't stop.
Something that did impress Dom was Volvo's new city safety system, which sensed our elk.
We noticed that the city safety system that's fitted to this car did recognise that something was blocking our path. And actually Volvo are working on second and third generation systems already. The next generation, which will launch this year, will recognise if a pedestrian steps out in front of you, and a more sophisticated system is also in the pipeline, which could easily recognise if wildlife steps out in front of the car in the middle of the night. In theory, the vehicle will react to that danger more quickly than you possibly could with human reflexes.
So after a day playing in the snow, what's the verdict? Are we doing it a disservice, suggesting that the only thing the XC60 is good for is as a shopping trolley?
I wasn't 100% sure I was going to like it. I like my kind of roughy-tufty 4x4s, but the more you spend time with it, the more you realise that it's so easy to live with. If you're going to be using this to turn up to your local pheasant shoot and you've got to go up the farm track, it'll be fine, you'll look smart in it and everything else. If you want to cram a load of guys in and go fox shooting over the field, it's not the tool for the job.